All right, welcome back everybody to the Jiu Jitsu Mindset. My name is Pete Deely, and I'm here with my professor, Professor Lucas Hubo. Professor, so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Peter. How are you doing today? It's been a long day, huh?
It's been a long day, but it's a good day. I was
Yes.
luckily enough, the committee has not, put submission coffee in a performance enhancing drug category. So it remains, legal to drink it before competition. Now we're in, for in Arizona, it's competition season. So submissioncoffee.com, you can get your unfair advantage out there. So
True.
we've got to talk to such like great people, Professor Lucas. And each week it feels like we're getting people from different perspectives and different kind of parts of the jiu-jitsu world. And today we have somebody who's a professional artist, a professional abstract visual artist, and who's also a jiu-jitsu black belt. And we're going to sort of ask some questions and dive into how the overlap between training to become it's just a rare and incredible achievement to become a black belt, and the discipline to be a professional artist, which is an equally rare and
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing.
difficult thing to achieve. So Professor Chris Fowler, welcome today. We're so glad you're with us.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Well, I think, where we'd like to start is sort of maybe with the obvious. I mean, how has being a jiu-jitsu athlete, a jiu-jitsu, black belt affected your artistic process? And conversely, like how has your artistic process affected your jiu-jitsu journey?
Yeah, it was for a long time. I didn't feel like I hadn't discovered my voice as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, yeah, I love jujitsu. I've been doing for 11, 12 years, and then I just decided, let me put these two things that I love together. And it was like the first time that I figured out, oh, this is it. This is
Mhm.
like, this is my voice. I've done so many different things, but that's what I felt. I found it, you know? Um, and I guess jujitsu is kind of like that too. It's just like you're piecing these things together and you're piecing it together. And then like the longer you do it, the picture becomes more clear.
Right.
You start with a
Yes, yeah.
a blank canvas and you're adding, you get the final piece, and it's kind of like your jujitsu games like that. You're adding,
Mhm.
and it all comes together, which is, I think about that when I paint. It's just, I think it's a really cool correlation between the two things that I love.
Yeah, that I agree 100%. I mean, I'm far from being an artist. I can barely do anything. I'm definitely a white belt first class on that subject, but there are just like different ways to truly express yourself, right? And it's really nice to see that we're able to put those things together. Do you believe your jujitsu, after you start doing jujitsu, you kind of like start adding even more to your artistic, like your artists are always like something related to that, to jujitsu, or like the way how we think through things?
Yeah, I think being an artist, I think artists are maybe kind of different kind of people. We're a little
Mm-hmm.
unusual. We kind of are drawn to the alternative, and my jujitsu's always been like that too. I kind of have always gravitated to techniques that weren't, like everybody did reverse De La Hiva at my gym. So I didn't focus on De La Hiva that much. I was like, let me do reverse De La Hiva with a spider hook just because it's different. So I've always kind of been that way. And I guess that part of my personality worked its way into jujitsu.
Yeah.
One thing about like artistic voices that I'm always interested in. My mom's a poet and has been uh, she's a professor for 30 years, and she's still a very active poet, though she's no longer an academic. And that like finding of your voice, I think, is fascinating. And I'm curious, did it occur to you in an epiphany, like this is my voice, and it was all at once, or was it slower? Was it more like incrementally, as you were piecing together different things that made sense to you, both, as an artist? I think, as a visual artist, it's probably a more subtle thing because you're incorporating so many parts of life, your auditory experience, your visual experience, your intellectual thought process. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, I think starting with techniques, I'm going to learn reverse De La Riva rather than De La Riva, is a little more concrete. But did your voice crystallize in a moment, or was it more like it revealed itself to you over time?
Well, I always worked in realism, more or less. And then I thought about doing jujitsu themed art for a long time, but I do abstract paintings now. So the idea of showing jujitsu in a realistic way just wasn't as interesting to me. So I was like, I had the idea, let me paint a feeling of jujitsu that mostly people who train would understand in a way that people who don't train wouldn't. So let me paint the feeling instead of an actual move.
Right.
And that kind of lent itself to abstract art. And once I got that on canvas, I didn't know how it would work, but once I got it on canvas, I saw it and I was like, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. All the elements came together. I was like, this is it. I got it.
And as your voice became clear to you, for many artists, like finding an audience is an issue. I mean, right? Did you find that as that crystallized for you that this is what I want to say? Was there an audience on the other side of that was like, yeah, I hear it and I want to participate in it via purchasing it, so on and so forth? I mean, did they happen close to the same time, or was there a long stretch in between finding your voice and then finding your audience?
Yeah, I didn't know how people would respond to it. It's so non-representational, so not like, you can see it instantly, recognize it. I didn't know if people would like it or not, but I liked it. And I think that's the most important thing as an artist. Just do what you like. And there's so many people out there. If you just do what you love, there's going to be other people who like this thing too.
Yeah.
But as it seemed like as soon as I put it out there, there was a response to it. There were people who trained going, oh, I've never seen something like this. I get this because I'm painting the feeling. I think that's why people get it. There's not a lot, at least that I've seen, that people doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you find it happening opposite to like people that they're not from jiu-jitsu, but maybe somehow they can correlate it with that feeling that you were painting, and maybe this can attract them to jiu-jitsu? Have you ever had something like that?
Oh man, I haven't seen anyone want to pick up jiu-jitsu because of my art. That would be cool if they did.
Maybe they did, you don't know.
Yeah, maybe that could happen. I think people who aren't into jiu-jitsu can still enjoy it just the way you just enjoy any sort of piece of abstract art, because I'm still following these things like these visual rules of art, not rules so much as like, rhythm and harmony and movement through the piece, so it can still work as a piece of art just on its own. It's just, it's tailor-made for people like us though.
That's well, because when I was looking just through your Instagram page, which is where I've seen your work, I haven't got a chance to see it in person, and it's always a difference between seeing a little square image and seeing it in person. So, I understand that, but I still found it appealing as in and of itself, not connected to my experience to jiu-jitsu. Like I found it to be beautiful work in and of itself that I felt like if I wasn't, but even as a beginner, at the beginning of my jiu-jitsu journey, I could see what you're talking about in terms of conveying certain feelings. I think when Rickson uses that expression, invisible jiu-jitsu, when we talk about people feeling heavy on us, like disproportionately heavy to their physical size, like how does this person feel that heavy on me? Or just some of the things that I think as an athlete are unique to like the jiu-jitsu experience. I responded to exactly what what you're talking about. In many artists' lives, there are times when things they flow easily and times that they don't. And in my, couple of years as a jiu-jitsu athlete, times when ideas come easily to me, like I understand what this movement's about, and then times when it feels like I will never understand what this movement is about. Has that notion of pushing through times when you might have felt blocked as either an athlete or as an artist, I mean, have you noticed correlations between the two, and has it helped you? For example, I think I'm a better business person by virtue of the fact that, I train jiu-jitsu because I am forced to relax in uncomfortable situations. I'm curious if you've had any of those types of experiences also.
I definitely have times where I feel like, oh, I finished a painting and I go, that's it. I'll never make another painting again. It's done. It's over.
Right.
I'm gonna have to do something else. And I've also had times, just like everybody, where I feel like I'm stagnant in jiu-jitsu, and even just getting worse. Like, I'm getting worse.
Thank you for saying that, because I feel like that frequently.
I think one of the biggest things jiu-jitsu has helped me do is learn how to get good at things. Like, I'm teaching myself how to skateboard right now at 35 years old for some reason, but I'm approaching that as if I was trying to get good at jiu-jitsu, like in these small ways, build all the skills up. I think jiu-jitsu has helped me. I feel like I can get good at anything now because I was able to get okay at jiu-jitsu.
So now your audio broke up a little bit. So at 35, skateboarding is that what you just said to us?
Yeah. I just decided, I'm going to learn how to skateboard now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to learn. I'm going to teach myself. So
Yeah.
I break it down into, okay, I need to, what are the skills I need to learn? I'm going to do drills, and I'm going to build instead of just riding around and just hoping something good happens.
Chris, I'm curious to know a little bit more. How was your thought process when you start training jiu-jitsu? Because Peter and I, we talk a lot here about the first experiences and their expectation in an actual jiu-jitsu class, right? And then you have maybe the person that is already super athletic, super strong, have that ego, so they don't allow themselves to learn the actual movements for a while because they're muscle through everything. And then you have the other perspective, someone that technique is the only thing that they can have to survive, right? And then you have the little panic attacks in a match, in a bad position, So usually, you already being an artist and already have this open mind through things. Do you think right on the beginning, were you able to translate that open mind that you have an artist to jiu-jitsu scenario, or it took a while until finding a click and you find the similarities about both?
I think it took until I could speak the language, around like blue belt, until I could kind of translate that over. At the beginning, I'm just like everybody else, just, don't know my left from right and just out there lost. But after I learned how to, a little bit about jiu-jitsu, that's when I think my individuality I was able to bring that over. But I'm not a big guy. I was never gonna out muscle anybody, all I had was technique, and I was claustrophobic, like you kind of alluded to. So I would tap to claustrophobia. So it was, I had like no physical advantage over anybody. So like you said, all I had was technique to rely on.
You're kind of your only choice there and need to learn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think those experiences are common to everybody. And one of our goals, Professor Chris, is that we believe that like people who start jiu-jitsu, that they quit too early, too many of them, and we use that term blue belt curse, right? That they achieve a blue belt and they're at the ABCs of the language. They haven't got a chance to experience the pleasure of like how to speak this language. And for me, like I'm really interested in getting fluent. Like I want to be fluent in my jiu-jitsu, and I'm committed to it. And I understand how like people stop, because as you say, like there are times where you feel like, oh, not only am I not progressing, but I'm getting worse. And I go through that so frequently, where I feel like I can't believe that I'm not, I should be better than I am for as much effort and time as I've put into it. Did you, one of the things I think about, like when you say you found your voice and it had to be authentic, it had to be yours, and then whatever the reaction that the audience gave you is secondary to the fact that you own your voice. That did you, have you put your toe in the competitive arena? Have you gone and been a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete, or has it been more personal? Like you just keep it as its own thing and you leave the competition alone?
Yeah, I've never been a guy who did competitions. I just feel it was, I've never wanted to fight. I mean, I also do, I've done striking along with my
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu, but and everybody would ask me, you getting ready for a fight? You getting ready for a fight? I'm there all the time training. I'm just like, no,
Yeah,
I just like getting better at something. I like learning a new thing and just seeing myself improve and get better. And I can get all the competition I need. I mean, not everybody's like this, but I can get all the competition I need at the gym.
sure.
That's good for me. I can go with the tougher guys, and that's fine. For me, it was just about, I love this sport. It looks like something so hard, which drew me to it. Um, there's so many positives, uh, being able to defend yourself, learning something new. I just
Hmm.
thought it was so cool, and I was just happy to be in there training.
Yeah. Well, for me, like that's interesting, right? Because I think in artistic disposition, you have so much of, I think, the artistic life is personal without an audience, right? You're refining your craft, you're doing your work. I think about I'm a very poor musician, but I had my days when I might have played out with other folks, and the playing in front of people was the 0.5% of the time. The rest of it was like, not even with the band. It was, in my room trying to work something out. And the the moments of being in front of people was the tiniest part of it. And when I I'm not a professional artist, but I appreciate the artistic disposition. I think I have some of it myself, and I think about that athletically. Like the games are the tip of the iceberg, with all of these other things that kind of lend up to it. But in many ways, if for me, the competition is designed to sharpen my attention and to keep me from eating whatever I want. Like it plays some really specific roles in my life, and I like being on like a team, and being present with a group of people with a similar kind of objective is something um, that really appeals to me. So as you've moved along, you're 12 years into it. I'm sure in where you train is similar to us in that people come in and then they leave. So you probably always have more beginners than you have experts. How about as a teacher? Do you find yourself gravitating at all to wanting to kind of help move people along who are more at the beginning of their journey, or what's your relationship to those ideas?
I I always just want them to stay.
Yeah.
You see these new people come in, it's going to be a revolving door of white belts. And
Mhm.
you see a new guy come in, I just want them to stay, so I try to talk to them after class. Hey man, just,
Especially if
good to
they're
see you did
small,
a great
right?
job. Yeah. I just, because I know how cool jiu-jitsu is and what it can do for you. And, but it's also at the same time, it can be a very, it's just a hard sport, a very demoralizing sport. So it's easy to
Mhm.
quit at the beginning. So I wanted to
Yeah.
push through. Come on, dude, just get past that first stage, and you're gonna be happy you did. Um, yeah. So that's like the main thing I think about. And I just really want to be able to convey, to convey the things I know to them in a easy way for them to understand, because I just remember being so lost at the beginning. That's
Yeah.
two of the main things I keep in mind. Let me try to make this as clear as possible and enjoyable, as enjoyable as possible.
Yeah, and I think especially have some people with that mentality, or like all or nothing. Like if I can't train 5 days a week, or if I can't be the best, I don't want to do it anymore. A lot of people are like that for so many things in their lives, and it just doesn't work in that way. I mean, life is general doesn't work in that way, and it's hard to make them understand that you won't be good right away. You're gonna figure it out so many things, and when you think you know everything, something happened. Like, okay, I don't know nothing. Let's get back. Like that's the fear that I had on my black belt, right? Like I got my black belt. I was like, well, this supposed to be, almost the best as you can be, and now I just know that I need to know much more, and still feeling every single day like that. And I believe being an artist, there's a lot of like being an artist, right? Like maybe some people can start your career with a lot of potential and being good at it, but it just, I guess it takes so many years for you actually understand and find your own style, and anyway everything else, right?
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to, for some. It's, at least for me, it's hard to be bad at something. I
Yeah,
went
absolutely.
I went like did like a dance class a while back, maybe a couple years ago, and I was terrible. And I was like, man, this is how it feels to be a white belt again. I don't like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can learn jujitsu all over again. I don't know if I could do it, but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting. I mean, and the fact that you say that, for example, picking up skateboarding, that the experience of working your way through those feelings of jujitsu, of has made you a different learner, that you have a higher tolerance for, like, okay, how do I break down the problem into smaller pieces and then work your way through it? I'm curious, and we ask this question a lot, like, do you have any stories that you could share of people that you observed jiu-jitsu serving them particularly well, that it was a transformational kind of experience for them, as you have this, like all of us, like a revolving door, but somebody who might have thought this isn't for me, and then they hung in and then realized, oh, this is very much for me.
um, probably the one thing that came to mind just a second ago when you're saying you're not going to be good at this right away. I remember I walk into the gym one day for a class. It's like an afternoon class, and there was a guy there. I could tell he had been training. I'd never seen him before. He had been training, and he's irritated, and he's and somebody goes, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I don't know, dude. I'm gonna quit. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I quit." And he go, and I ask him why, and he goes, "I've been here 10 hours, and I still can't get it." And I'm, 10 hours. Dude, you're going to be bad in 10 days, in 10 weeks, in 10 months. You're going to be bad. You're not 10 hours. But I never saw him again. I think about that guy a lot. It's like, I wonder what happened to him, because just because you left the gym doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever just happened to
100%.
you, it's reality. So, like I said, I was a small guy my whole life, and it's not a good feeling walking around being afraid of what might happen, or just like rolling the dice hoping that something bad doesn't happen to you. So for me, that's like the biggest thing it's done for me, is make me a lot more self-assured and confident in myself. But I see kids like that the most, like junior high kids and stuff like that. There's a guy at my gym. He was maybe like 13 when he started training, very shy, not in great shape. And then you see him a couple months down the line, he's a completely different kid.
Yeah.
He's a completely different kid, which probably translates into making his whole life at school better and just making him a happier person.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that virtuous cycle of, like, as one thing improves, it makes the second thing easier to improve, and all of that. And Professor Lucas in our community, watching him with the kids, and it's one of my great pleasures to watch, because I know that the coaches are having such really powerful effects on these kids that are going to stay with them the rest of their lives. Unlike the guy who came into your gym is like, I'm in here 10 hours. I can't believe I'm not good at this. It's such a shame. It was an opportunity to kind of, break apart that part of his personality and balance him out, give him some humility, to go into the other problems, as you say, Professor Chris, that, you're better at learning now because because you learned jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
I'm curious in terms of your artwork, if you have a particular piece that you feel like captures some special either memory or experience or relationship you have with jiu-jitsu. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit, so we could, maybe you could, so to speak, paint a picture a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them are just like I said, I'll start with a feeling. I want to show the feeling of this. But there's one, it's my favorite jiu-jitsu memory.
Sorry to cut you, Chris. Like when you talk about like, I want to put the feeling of this. Well, I'm not an artist, as you can see, so like I need to try to understand. You talk, for example, okay, I was in a really bad experience today, and that's why you want to show, like a bit of really bad experience in a training, in a bad position or something, and that's like the moment that you want to translate.
To me, I'm thinking about it as either I want to show the feeling of a move, like the momentum of a move, like if you're hitting like a tornado sweep, there's that feeling, there's that move, or like a hip toss, there's momentum that you feel. Trying to show that. Or I'm trying to show that feeling of I haven't done this yet, but you like that claustrophobic feeling, that we know how it feels to be in a gi and just trapped and I can't breathe and I can't get up. That
I'm picturing some arts for you. I'm gonna send you later.
Yeah. I need to do one like that. I've only done like positive ones. I need to do one like that. But the first one that I've done that was a memory. It's my favorite jiu-jitsu memory I have. I was a white belt. It was the summer. I live in a beach town, so I'm close. The gym I trained at was very close to the beach. It's like a morning class, like a 10 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that. And they have these big garage doors, and they're open. So the breeze is coming in, the sun shining on the mats. I remember it's like the mats were like this golden color now, shining on the mats. And I'm training. I'm like, man. And I was just so excited and happy I'm like brand new, like a couple months in. So excited and happy to be training. I've wanted to do this for a while. I'm finally getting to do it. I feel so happy. The beach is right here. I'm like, man, this must be like what it felt like in the old days in Brazil with Hila. Man, it's so cool. So and I did a painting based off that memory. It's like, even though it's like when happened at the beginning of my jiu-jitsu, it's still my favorite.
Yeah,
my favorite.
That's
memory.
Awesome. I'm curious to see that painting. It looks really nice. That's cool.
Yeah. What happened to the painting? Did you sell that painting, or do you have that painting? Like, is the painting?
No, I have that one.
Okay. All right.
I kept that one.
Yeah. Good. Good for you. Well, Professor Chris, I mean, do you have any advice for then as we kind of come to the conclusion, like anything that, if you were to say something maybe to that guy who left after 10 hours or just, the people that come in and you want them to stay, which we do too. Anything that you would kind of say to them here? Because we in the end of our podcasts or, throughout kind of things, we want people who haven't tried it to come try it. Right. And then we want the people who come in to not stop too early, because we feel like so much it happens. I mean, anything that you would say to those folks before we kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, it's a beautiful sport, and it's like, this gets thrown around a lot, but it'll change your life. It'll change who you are as a person for the better, and you're never going to be disappointed that you learned jiu-jitsu. You're never going to be disappointed that you went to train. I might not, I don't want to go train today. Once you go, you're never going to regret going.
Yes.
And it's difficult. It's one of the hardest things you can do, but it's one of the most worthwhile things you can do, and all the hard work, all the struggle, all the injuries, it's worth it. I can't turn my neck as much as I used to. Cool, I'll take it.
Well, that's awesome, Professor Chris.
The best things you've ever done.
Yes. Yeah, we could not agree more. We lost that audio just a bit. But thank you for, sharing that. And I think when we agree with what you're saying so strongly, and we also think that the learnings on the mat apply to everything off the mat. And so, someone's listening, then maybe there's an artist out there who thought, well, I'm not the most physical person. What could jiu-jitsu do to enhance my life as an artist? And if that person's listening now, hopefully he hears your story and recognizes that there are correlations that you can't make until you go and do it for a long time. And they're things that will enhance your life and deepen your understanding of what you think you already understand, that jiu-jitsu in some very unique way offers to people. Professor Lucas, anything else that you might ask before
No,
we
man,
come
that was awesome. Really, really interesting. Different perspective for sure. And like we're saying, I think there are different ways to really, really nice to see different ways to express the art and themselves. And Chris being able to put things together and try to do the hardest part, right? Like try to put in the picture, in the paint, like feelings and emotions. I just admire you so much, and I'm definitely gonna try to think more about that. Maybe I can try enhance my artistic side later.
So, Professor Chris, there may be people out here who are going, well, I want to see this artwork now. And so what's the right way to go find you? How would you like people to come see your work?
You could do it on my Instagram. It's cfowlart, C and FOWL art. And my website's the same thing, cfowlart.com. Either one of those.
And then, is there a gallery anywhere out there in the world that if someone wants to see it in person?
I don't do galleries anymore. I don't like them. I know that's a whole other thing.
All right.
That's a whole other topic.
Is that another podcast?
Another podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely
well, awesome. All right. So good. Well, we'll have you back another time if you're willing. And thanks for sharing, that story. And the perspective that you bring is not one that we've had a chance to kind of dive into here. So thanks for bringing that unique perspective. And we'll all go check out your artwork and follow you as you translate this. I'm going to look specifically for the suffocation one, since I've had that. So I'll look for some future artwork that will speak to that as well. But thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for coming and spending the time with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy you guys have me. I know you guys have had such huge names on here, so to have me, just some guy on here, I'm very humbled to be on.
No, that's awesome.
Thank you, Chris.